Well, India just did not have the answers to a fourth wicket partnership that has gunned down a target of 307 and given New Zealand a 1-0 lead in this three-match ODI series. Tom Latham loves playing against India, 700, and his record just continues to improve against India in ODI cricket. And with Kane Williamson, they just put on a controlled assault that India had no answers to. On ESPN Cricket for Match Day, plenty to talk about as I welcome both Wasim Jaffer and Mitchell McClenaghan for the first time on our review shows. Let me start with you, Mitch. That was a bowling attack that had no answers to the way Latham and Williamson were batting. How good was that?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, it escalated very quickly, didn't it? There was a 3-over period there where 41 runs were conceded, and that just got New Zealand back into the game. I think that's the best I've seen Tom Latham play for a period of time. He was so fluent from the outset, and Kane just did what Kane does. That's his first 50 for since 2019, I think, in the World Cup. So he's hardly played any cricket between now and then, but he just settled straight back into that one-day cricket.
He's Mitch, if you could just spend some time on Tom Latham, he's now a proper one-day specialist along with a player for red ball cricket. He doesn't play the shorter format, but doesn't seem to have any trouble just hitting the ground running.
Oh, look, he's a vastly experienced batsman, isn't he? I think since Ross Taylor has retired, I think most people thought that Devon Conway was really going to shore up that middle order with Kane Williamson and create that big partnership. But Tom Latham, to his credit, has put his hand up and said, I want to take that role up, show my experience. And obviously he's captain New Zealand in all formats now. So I think he's just a guy who's just a leader of that whole batting lineup now as well with Kane. And I think that partnership tonight really showed really good signs for New Zealand leading into that World Cup next year.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because every ODI game, Wasim, is a conversation on how a team is preparing towards the World Cup. I'll come to India in a moment, but if we spend time on Tom Latham and just India's bowling, which had two debutants in it, you could expect some inexperience. It just looks so easy for Latham and Williamson. How do you look back at India's bowling effort first?
Well, I thought they bowled well. You just got to give credit to how Tom Latham and Kane Williamson batted. I think Shikhar Dhawan did his best. He rotated the bowlers well. I thought Shardul bowled really well with the new ball. Umran showed a lot of glimpse of his talent. First game for him. I thought he bowled well as well. But I think those two guys were far better. 88 for 3, things could have gone anywhere had they picked up a wicket there. But Tom Latham, like you've said, he keeps, he loves batting against India and plays spin so well. I mean, it's not easy from a top order batsman to come in and get so used to batting at number 4 or 5 when the run rate is soaring up, and then you have to keep rotating the strike. And this guy doesn't play T20 and he's batted at 140 strike rate, goes on to show, that he's got a lot of variety in his shots. He plays sweep shots really well. If you look at his, batting chart, a lot of runs on the square of the wicket. So goes on to show that, he plays sweeps and cuts really well. He doesn't give much to the bowlers, spin bowlers, so which is such a good thing.
On Shardul Thakur, Mitch, I think a lot of expectations are on him for this format in particular for India. They think he can do the all-rounders role, even complement Hardik Pandya when he's fit. Starts off well with the new ball. Then that 40th over, which went for 25, it seemed to just kill the game off. Otherwise, we were set for a grandstand 10-over finish. As a bowler, what does Shardul Thakur lack? He starts all right with the new ball, and somewhere then he just leaks runs. That seems to be a pattern. Is there anything you've observed about his game?
I think today was probably a position where he had two inexperienced bowlers around him. So he probably felt where the game had got to, those 2 overs leading into that over. Obviously, his over was the worst of the 3, but the way it fed into that, I felt like he really felt like he needed to make a play in the game, and he really tried his best to try to pull India back into the game. Unfortunately, it didn't work for him. I guess in New Zealand and our conditions, our wickets are just a little bit different to around the world, where we kind of get like a matting of grass, dead grass on top of the wicket. And tonight I saw a bit of variation from the New Zealand guys. You saw Lockie Ferguson, Milne, Southey use cross seamers and 3/4 balls a lot more. I didn't see anything from the whole Indian bowling lineup tonight. So just if I was looking at assessing that game from an Indian bowling point of view, using your cross seamers, your 3/4 balls, using the wicket crease a little bit more is a really effective way rather than going straight to Yorkers and bowling seam up, because the ball just comes on so nicely on New Zealand wickets.
Arshdeep has started his T20 career so well, Wasim. This has been a bit of a learning for him. I'll get Mitch's thoughts on the two debutant seamers too. But Umran and Arshdeep now playing the ODI format, it does seem like they're going to have to learn a bit on the job. It's not like they have a bank of list A cricket behind them.
Well, I think as the game, gets bigger, you got to have a lot more skill, and that's something which they will learn. I feel Umran, this format suits him more than the T20. We've seen in the IPL that he doesn't have that many variations, compared to bowling in this format where you need to bowl that line and length. A lot more he can use his short ball well. Ashdeep, he'll get used to it. He's a quality bowler and he'll adapt to it, pretty quickly. But I just thought that in the second half, the wicket got really better. In the first half, the wicket was a little bit sticky. The ball wasn't coming onto the bat as we've seen in the second half. But I just thought that those two guys batted well, and it wasn't easy bowling when those two guys have batted so well. So that's the only reading that I can get.
Mitch, for a brand of fast bowlers that are essentially growing up trying to play T20 cricket or adopt T20 cricket as their first format, ODI cricket is now going to be played a lot more frequently with the World Cup in mind. Give me your observations firstly on Umran and Arshdeep on their ODI debut, and perhaps what they need to do to be effective 10 over or 50 over bowlers.
Yeah, I guess both of their debuts, they probably would have hoped for a little bit more. Malik got a couple of wickets. He looked dangerous in patches. And Arshdeep, I've watched Arshdeep for a while now, and I think he's, as Wasim said, he's a very talented bowler, and I think he's going to be super important for India, not just leading into this World Cup, but for years to come. He didn't get the benefit of the swing that we saw in the first innings with someone like Tim Southee. Maybe the wind just died down a little bit, or just sometimes the variability in balls can affect that. That's his biggest strength at the top. From Malik's point of view, or actually both of them point of view, is that your T20 skills definitely developed towards the back end of this innings. And as Kane Williamson, when he was leading the side with us, always said that he looks for his bowlers to be test match bowlers for 40 overs of the game. And it's just making sure that they are still drilling. While it looks great in the nets, you're bowling Yorkers and bumpers and slow ball bouncers, that you are still drilling that really good length, because that's the hardest ball to play in one-day cricket.
All right, interesting. We'll see if they get more game time, the two debutants. Let's look at the first innings, shall we? Wasim, you've already said that conditions were perhaps different in the first innings. I guess there's also going to be a lot of impressions made from people who watch that scorecard and continue to wonder, are India playing a safe form of cricket, a dated form of cricket? Will this template help them win an ODI World Cup where we might again see big scores or power hitting sort of scores? We see a lot of batters set and batting for a long period of time. But barring the Washington Sundar innings, we didn't really see anybody who was striking at 120, 140 plus. Now, were you happy with the way India's batters batted today, or are you concerned about the template and the approach? Wasim? Wasim, do you have me? Can you hear me, Wasim? Okay, I'm going to try and just reconnect to Wasim. But Mitch, I think you followed the question. I wonder if you'd like to weigh in.
Yeah, look, I thought Shikhar and Shubman Gill batted beautifully at the top, particularly with the two new white balls. You do need to build a base at the top. Shubman Gill in particular really impressed me from a bowling point of view, watching him play some of those forward defenses.
We had a great platform given by Shikhar Dhawan and Shubman Gill. 120 for no loss, which suddenly became 160 for four. That probably put them back a little bit, and that's probably where India probably missed out on those 20-30 runs.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna see if we can get Wasim back on in better. But sorry, Mitch, you want to just start that answer for me?
No, we're good, mate. Look, I'll pick up where you left off. I think obviously Gill, he looked fantastic. It actually looked like a relaxed shot. The way he got out was the only way he was going to get out. He looked dominant. But I thought the platform that they set was an exceptional platform. You wouldn't have expected Sky Suryakumar Yadav to get out third ball, who's been the most informed batsman around the world at the minute. So, and Pant as well. I think those guys had the platform to kick on. And 300 at the end of the day in any one day is a really top-notch score, particularly when you're looking at the New Zealand batting lineup. I think they had Mitchell Sattner batting at 7. From a New Zealand fan point of view, that's a concern. It's a little bit short and light on that batting side. So I think India in the whole were actually only 1 wicket away from really blowing that game apart.
Okay, very interesting. So you wouldn't afford any criticism as such to the Indian batting effort. Would you agree with Wasim that that conditions did get easier in the second half for batting for New Zealand?
They generally do in New Zealand. They generally do. You get a little bit of dew. I don't know if there was dew tonight, but generally New Zealand under lights, our wickets do speed up a little bit more, and you get the benefit of the ball, yes, stopping a little bit more, seaming a little bit more during that daytime period, as Wasim said.
All right, Wasim, yeah, I'm glad I've got you back now. We're just having that same chat. There's a big delay when we're having that last question. But Mitch is all praise for the way India set up a foundation. No real criticism today because they still got past 307. I'm guessing you look at the scorecard and sometimes you think, okay, 309 for 3, New Zealand have aced this. So could India have got 325, 330? Could they have, pressed the accelerator a bit sooner? What are your assessments of India's approach today?
Well, I think, like I said, 120 for no loss was a perfect setup for a score like 320 or 340. But then it became 160 for 4, and then those 2 set batters got out, and then Surya, who's in such a great form. If you want to make 330, 340, you want Surya to be there for some time, and then he got out. Rishabh Pant again had a not a big knock. So I thought Shreyas Iyer and Sanju Samson played a great part. That partnership actually set them up. And I thought at one stage it did look like they're going to get 260, 270, but they did a great effort. Washington Sundar playing that cameo to reach that 307 mark. Looked at one stage. But I thought, losing that 3 or 4 wickets and that at 120 for no loss to 160 for 4 put them back a little bit. Had they had wickets in hand, I thought India would have probably reached 330, but like I said, you got to give it to New Zealand to how well those 2 guys are batting.
All right, perhaps we will revisit this conversation. Yes, Mitch, you've got something to add?
Oh, no, I agree. They definitely could have got that 330, 340. Eden Park's that weird one, right? It's that big square and short straight. And the 2 highest scores was the last time India met New Zealand at Eden Park, 315 each. So it was there or thereabouts for them to be able to defend that total.
And on this conversation of, say, the type of ODI cricket that may win a team a World Cup. The World Cup is, of course, in our part of the world. Let me get both of you to just weigh in on that, Mitch. You said 307 still a very good score today. But I guess if you need 330, 340, you're not going to only need your middle order or your lower middle order to fire. You're going to have to almost go from the get-go. And we keep looking at the England model. Do you sense India need to look at that model, or do you think the batting's in good health?
I think there's a period of time where your openers got off to the start. I thought they started a little bit slow. I think New Zealand bowled reasonably well. I think we didn't see Henry was miserly at the top. I feel like there's got to be a point where one of your openers, if you get off to that good a start, really needs to be super selfless. There was a conversation I remember with Brendan McCullum and Kane, and they talked about, he actually praised Kane. I think he got out between 50 and 70, 4 or 5 games in a row. It was an amazing period where people were like, oh, bugger, like wish Kane got 100. But the acceleration he did from that 50 to 70 was done in 7-8 balls and really set the game up. And it was an understanding between his playing partner that one of them needed to go, and it was one of the batsmen was going to be selfless and make a decision for the team that they needed to go and up that run rate. And I guess that's what could have happened today. They could have potentially, one of the partners could have gone earlier and set the run rate up a little bit more. So if one of the middle order batsmen who is coming in, which may happen in pressure games during a World Cup, if he's not hitting the ball very well, he has that little bit more time to get himself in and then launch himself at the back end of the innings.
Wasim, I mean, like I said, with every game, ODI game, we are going to look at how India are preparing for the World Cup. I like that term Mitch uses, super selfless. Do you necessarily see that in India's top order batters? Would you like to see more of that?
You do. It depends, what part of the game you're playing. I mean, when you have got a good partnership going, then I think one batsman have to be super aggressive. Both batters can't play in the same manner. Then it sets you, behind the game. thought both the openers were looking to go, aggressive, but they both got out pretty close to each other. I thought Shikhar Dhawan was looking to be aggressive, but I thought, you can't bat super aggressively in 50 over format continuous. You can't do that. And if you find yourself in a sticky pitch like this morning, you got to take that time. Or if in the World Cup you're against a spinning team, or in a Chennai where the ball spins, then you can't be aggressive. So you got to understand that. But I thought, like I said, losing those 3-4 wickets, I thought put India back a little bit. Surya Kumar Yadav and then probably Sanju Samson batting till the end, India might have achieved those 25-30 runs extra.
Yeah. I think we're all still spoiled by the T20 World Cup, right? We're trying to also apply that to the ODI game. But there's reason for it. England seem to be playing a brand of cricket that's influencing a number of us, but not as much criticism then for India's batters today. Fair from both Mitch and Wasim. Let's quickly look at the second ODI. The games come thick and fast in this series. We move to Hamilton on Sunday now. Let's quickly get a word looking ahead to that game. Mitch, New Zealand had a forced selection, you think, with Jimmy Neesham's injury. I wonder if that actually turned out to be a good selection just in terms of the personnel that they ended up playing, the 4 outright quicks with a Mitchell Santner.
Yeah, I think looking ahead, I guess you've got guys on the sideline like Kyle Jamieson who will probably come into the mix for that next World Cup. It was interesting to see. I mean, Milne hasn't played since 1 day for New Zealand since 2015, where he was that third seamer. So I think hopefully that game's got the cobwebs out for him. I thought his skills toward the back end of the innings were super promising for us going forward. I still think with Southee as an outswing bowler, I still think either Lockie Ferguson or Adam Milne, who both move the ball in, are far more dangerous with that new ball. And it's something I'd like to see trialled between now and the next World Cup from a New Zealand point of view. I'd like to see one of those in-swinging opening bowlers get a crack as the other opening bowler. Hamilton is a really interesting venue. It's really, really small. And it will be another one of those games where it's a one or a boundary. So it's going to be another one of those games. I'm picking it's going to be a 300 plus score again if the weather stays away, hopefully.
Yeah. Let's make sure we don't talk about weather at the end of that. But Mitch has said that chasing is an advantage in these conditions. Wasim, you said chasing was an advantage in this first ODI as well. Let's say India in a similar position. They've got to defend a 300 odd sort of score. Would you be tempted to play a Kuldeep Yadav? Would you be tempted to change things up? Or in a 3-match series, do you just continue with the same team that you start with?
I'll be tempted to play Kuldeep Yadav just because it brings a little bit of mystery. He spins it both ways and he's in a good form as well. And India, have a problem of they've only got 5 bowlers to choose from. They haven't got a 6th bowling option. So that can be a worry. Arshdeep is only playing his first ODI. So is Umran Malik. So a lot of inexperience there, especially for this format. And with small grounds, it can get a little bit tricky as well. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of change, but I would be, probably keen to have a look at the Kuldeep Yadav in place of Chahal if at all. Otherwise, there's not much space for change.
Win the toss and bowl first, Mitch? Simple as that?
Well, I mean, it's probably a decent way to look at it. I mean, Hamilton, honestly, mate, you go, it's only an hour away from here, mate. Sometimes you turn up, got no idea what kind of wicket you're going to get. It can be sticky, can be hard, a great batting wicket, or it can turn sideways, mate. So without seeing the wicket, I couldn't tell you. It's one of the major mysteries of New Zealand cricket, trying to pick that pitch down in Hamilton.
All right, fair enough. But let's pick up the chat at the end of the game. It's been, it gives us so much more to talk about ODI cricket, and it's back now, and there'll be plenty of it building up to the World Cup. Mitchell McClenaghan, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. So too, Wasim Jaffer. More from these fine gents at the end of the second ODI on Sunday. Do join us then on ESPN Cricket for Matchday.